guys, welcome back. So today we're going to touch on something I think that's great for the average golfer to be aware of, how the best players in the world are practicing, namely Rory McIlroy. He's playing in Abu Dhabi this week, and in the press conference they've asked him, what have you been working on? You know, there was a story actually on Golf Digest that, from Luke on the things he's working on his game. And I think he may have surprised some people that he's got access to the best practice facilities in the world, Bears Club and all these nice places. But he said he's locked himself indoors for 3 weeks since the Dunhill Championship, and he's been making some swing changes. And I want to get into that with you today, and why one of the best players, you know, in the world would do that.
You know, Luke did a great job on this.
Yeah.
And boy, it's fun to watch. I mean, Rory, I don't know if you've seen him live. It's fun to watch.
Nothing like it.
There's nothing like it, right? It's, you know, whatever I'm doing, I'll grab a coffee and go watch him, and it's a lot of fun, right? So, you know, and first of all, I think the changes he made are brilliant, right? I also think whenever we make changes that are based on performance, we're going to be in good shape. When we struggle is when we start making changes based on aesthetics, right? So,
agreed.
You know, he's did a great job, him and his team, obviously sitting down and said, hey, what do we need to improve on? You know, basically his short irons. But you think about it, you hit the driver that far, you're going to have a lot of short irons in, right? And, you know, he noticed, you know, basically a hole in his swing, right?
Yeah.
And he's taking, you know, he's addressing that in what seems like a very, very common sense approach.
Without a doubt, it seems like it's something like very fundamentally based on you know, just static positions, and I think that's why he's not really that worried about what the ball flight does. He's locked himself away, in his own words, down in Florida, indoors at the Bears Club, or up in New York where he's been practicing, and he's been working on drills that literally just help him shape, you know, the practice that he feels is important right now. Going back to the docuseries Full Swing, and I mean, you saw the after the PGA Championship, it was at Oak Hill, I think, and he had that kind of, wasn't a breakdown emotionally, but it was a breakdown of, my technique isn't able to hold up under the best pressure. So he clearly felt that, you know, he had some deficiencies in his technique that wasn't allowing him to compete under the gun. Pinehurst, maybe. I mean, you can talk about those two putts, but those were two difficult, you know, challenging putts. He kind of had a bit of a miss going that day that could have made that a lot easier down the stretch and hit more sort of high-quality golf shots. So I'd love to look at that with you today.
Yes, we all have tendencies with our swing, right? And Rory's, you know, tendency that he's trying to correct, he gets the club in behind him a little too deep.
Let's demonstrate that a little bit.
I will say, though, that you know,
Rory and I don't have much in common, but this might be one thing that we both struggle a little bit with.
So, you know, if it kind of makes sense if you think about it from a, you know, from a 30,000 foot level, right? We're good players. We want to hit the golf ball from the inside. We tend to take the club back too much on the inside. Okay. Right? And so, again, and then there's different ways of checking this, but, you know, we don't want to get our hands, you know, too far in behind us going back. Because it, you know, tends to get the club to cross the line. Right. You know, when we do put, you know, exert some force on it, it gets in pretty steep. And then we're using our talent at the bottom to try to control it instead of to try to hit beautiful shots.
So tell me what you see, because when I looked at it, right, so I'm looking at kind of, you know, Rory, very athletic setup. Can't help but notice how thick he looks now. And I'm not sure if I love that. I thought 2010 Rory, with the flow that he had in his swing now, I know he had some back issues. He had to bulk up because he had a bit of a curvature in his spine that if he was going to play the game at a high level for a number of years, he actually, his gym workout stuff that he's got a lot stronger was more about maintaining the sort of structure of his spine than it was really about any, you know, ego of having, you know, looking good in the shirt he's wearing. But when I look at Rory's swing, what I was sort of seeing was, you know, pretty good sort of setup. I could certainly see, you know, sort of takeaway pretty good into sort of club parallel position. But from here, you could kind of, this is where it kind of broke down a little bit. And certainly for me, I could see the hands sort of getting a little bit behind, lead wrist getting a little bit sort of cupped in there, and that kind of causing the club to sort of get, you know, a little bit in that sort of position, right? Elbow behind him a little bit.
And the problem with crossing the line is now go ahead and drive down. You know, our first reaction is get this super steep. And then from here, you know, we have to make some type of compensation.
Absolutely. He's an elite athlete. he's not going to continue down there. So he's going to make compensations, as you say.
Yeah. So you kind of lost me a little bit on the fitness part. You know, he's in great shape.
Great shape.
You know, he does a great job with his workouts.
Yep.
Where he'll do some explosiveness, you know, power explosiveness.
Yep.
You know, and that's, I mean, he's one of the best athletes in the world for a reason,
100%.
right? So let's get set up here again.
Yep.
And let's take that club back. Let's do that first. Yeah. So this takeaway is super important. And what we're looking for, you know, for people checking at home, and this is kind of what he's talking about. If we got a camera back there, kind of a nice thing to check is see if our hands are in the middle of our chest.
Right.
So our left arm's parallel to the ground, our hands in the middle of our chest. It's when we get this sucked in behind us, that cascading effect of cupping our wrists. And if your club's back here or your hands are back here, you can do the best you can. You're just not really set up for success.
Right.
So let's do that again.
Okay.
So this would be a great thing to check at home. You know, keep going. Is just see where those hands are relative to your chest. Right now it's in the middle. And Ian, I'm going to pick on here a little bit. Sometimes I see you get a little bit back too far.
Yeah, and for me as well, like that, you know, sucking the hands in a little bit, pushes the right elbow behind the rib cage.
Yeah.
And then that's when the club can kind of get a bit across the line and that type of thing.
Just a nice fundamental check is where our hand path is going back. And when that left arm is parallel to the ground, that gives us a good visual and a good idea when to check it. And when it gets too far in behind us, doesn't mean we can't hit a good shot from there, but the odds are declining.
The compensation needs to be, you know, correct after that. Like you said something when we filmed a video earlier on about, you know, the correct domino effect has to be that chain reaction. You know, if every link in the chain is, you know, a positive effect for the golf swing, then you're going to have less compensations on the way down. You can let it go a little bit more, which is what obviously I think Rory wants to play that game. I feel like he wants to be as free as he possibly can, and maybe there's times when he freewheels it and his shot shape gets a little bit errant, you know, because to create the club head speed he's letting it go. There's no doubt about that. He's not swinging with any, you know, consequence really in mind. You know, he's trusting his mechanics and he's trying to execute the shot that he has in his mind.
Yeah, and then it looks like he's, you know, because he's trying to compensate and he's, you know, trying to hit those controlled wedges.
Oh, do you think he's trying to compensate or he is compensating?
Fair enough.
That's you know, I think that's a reaction to the sort of technique.
100%.
Yeah.
And then, you know, what looks like now some brilliant changes, he's going to be able to control the spin more with his body.
Absolutely.
Right? And hit those soft shots that you need, you know, and again, the more challenging the conditions, the more precise you're going to have to be.
Right.
And I feel like this is going to let him get that club out in front of him more and control it with their body. So
let's run through that a little bit. We'll look at some numbers. We've got attack angle, we've got club path, and then we've got obviously face to path, that relationship, because that kind of binds our curvature.
Yeah, there's a lot of numbers we can look at. I feel like if our path is good, that's going to be the number one thing we're going to look at.
Absolutely.
Right? So we want to have good path. Obviously, our face is going to control our shot.
Yeah.
But boy, it's a lot easier to control the face if the path and angle attack are good. Right? I always feel like the face to path is going to be a, you know, byproduct of having good club path and angle attack over and over again.
Agreed. Okay.
So we're gonna.
So put me in Rory's position here. What's he looking for?
So what we're looking for is we're gonna go back and we're gonna feel like the hands are more in front of our chest instead of behind it. So it might not be a bad swing thought. So this gets set up here and just feel like going back, you know, we're keeping those hands in front of our chest a little bit longer, just like that. Yeah.
Feels good. Feels like I've got loads of space, the arms have space. I don't feel like my swing radius is being reduced by the club getting in or the hands getting in too early.
It's almost like if you thought about putting a glove underneath your right arm and letting it fall out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of people are trying to kind of stay like they're swinging in a straight jacket, and you never really see that with the best players in the world, really.
You don't see that with the best players in the world. You know, you look at other sports, you don't see that in baseball, you don't see that in power sports.
Agreed. It's okay. So we're in that checkpoint.
And just feel like we're keeping that club and our hands in front of our torso longer. Brilliant.
Checking in on that. Feels good. And I think one thing, Rory, obviously, by having the compensations and maybe the kind of club being in the position where it crossed the line a little bit, and he has to sort of tilt a touch in order to sort of get the club head behind the hands. He'll have an amount, and I've just lost that one left, and that's kind of my miss as well, is, you know, when I get tilted that way, and maybe I get a little bit early extension, the club head falls behind the hands, then there's a game of catch-up going on. And that's, to me, where you know, I see that in my own swing. I see that right wrist sort of really breaking down, and I don't have a stable club face.
So that's a good example. So much better takeaway, much better backswing. Still had the old habit of down below, but that's going to go away at 20, 30 shots.
Right.
I always tell people, like, is it worth 15 minutes of pain to be better for the rest of your life?
Totally.
Most people say yes.
Okay.
Let's do that again.
Okay.
And this would be, while you're doing this, this is why Rory, you know, said he shut the screen off.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't react to that shot. Yeah, that's just really good there. Maybe an overcompensation with the hands, but
and I could feel that. I feel that coming down a little bit that way. So that's, you know, part of this discovery process of going through this. I've got to find what it feels like to just keep that club face, you know, just stable without release and without no release. There's a middle ground in there that I got to find. I mean, those shots have went in opposite directions. Yeah,
so maybe a good drill for that would be once we get that good position, and then feel like we're trying to hit a knockdown shot from there.
I love that.
Right, because that's going to help us lead with our hands without thinking about leading with our hands.
Couldn't agree more.
So let's do that same takeaway, and then just feel like we're, you know, just flighting this 10, 12 feet lower. Brilliant backswing. Now just an abbreviated follow through. There we go.
So I'm kind of, like, in my mind, I love picturing people's swings, and, you know, I'm picturing a Tommy Fleetwood finish.
100%.
You know, something that's really nicely coupled together. You know, I think, you know, he's somebody who controls the club face incredibly well.
Yeah, so that's a good example, though, of, you know, we can only we got to focus on the most important thing first. So with your swing, we want to make sure that those hands don't get sucked in too deep behind us.
Right.
And once we get a feel for that, then we want to think about controlling the face more.
Love it.
Boy, that abbreviated fall through one that Tommy Fleetwood was a great visual.
Definitely.
That's why it's important to watch great players, because you can pick different things from, and it might not look quite the same when we do it.
Yeah.
But boy, that sure did look like Tommy's finish.
Massive help. Okay, let's hit one more.
Excellent. Now just show me that Tommy Fleetwood follow through. Brilliant.
Like, the stability in the club face now is unquestionable. I mean, we're hitting that right down. Do it. Brother, I love it.
If you make changes the right way, they're not that hard.
No, they really aren't. And we've taken something which was the task, which was trying to kind of talk about the direction the club's moving, trying to get away from that, you know, sort of series of events. There's links in the chain. And then we've added one thing, and I really feel like I now trust what's going on here, because, you know, I've got a little bit more control of that ball flight. I love it.
Brilliant.
Okay, guys, more ways for you guys to have more productive, more structured practice. We're talking about Rory, but really what stood out to Ralph and I when we got chatting about this is no different from the challenges you guys have, and when you're working in your own swing and you maybe see some flaws. Lots of people have these same, you know, swing breakdowns that Rory's having or trying to fix. So I think this is an important one, that just because the best players in the world are the best players in the world, they do this same stuff over and over again, and you guys should too. Stay tuned for more, and we'll see you again soon.